Welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast. I'm your host as well as current CEO of MKB, Mills Bender. And this is also my last podcast episode that I'm recording. If you are unaware, the wonderful Jen Fizer is going to be taking over as CEO and owner of MKB. And so if you've not had the chance to reach out to her, make sure you do so. You can reach out to her on our Instagram at MKBCFO. With me today is part 2 of our episode with Sean Casper, where I'm in the hot seat. He gets to ask me any questions he has, and we're going to keep this one short and sweet for y'all, so I hope you stay till the end. Go ahead, Sean. Let's reintroduce you first for those that didn't catch the last episode.
Thank you for having me again for part 2. I feel extremely fortunate to be on the last podcast that you're hosting, our last hurrah. So thank you for having me. So Fractional CFO is Mills Knows Bills business. I don't know much about that. I've always worked in organizations where there's been a full-time CFO. But when I heard that and Carrie was sharing with me about your business, obviously it fills a huge gap in a lot of businesses that aren't ready to make that step. So maybe just share how does that work? Sure. What is Mills Knows Bills? Let's if you could maybe share briefly on that.
Yeah, I'll give you the elevator pitch.
Yeah, let me have that.
We like to work with blue collar businesses who generate at least $1 million or more a year in revenue. The reason we say $1 million is for a couple reasons. Number one, that's financially at the point where a blue collar business owner can typically afford us given their average margins. Number two, they are now at that oh crap moment of I've grown this beyond what I can personally handle. I need some help. Bookkeeper and accountant aren't cutting it because those are more reactive roles. So we come in on a proactive role where we help the business owner with making financially based decisions in their company, making sure that they get to scale, so that way they have the opportunity to be the owner, pass it down to their kids, or sell the business to somebody else.
Got it. Perfect. I get it. And at what point, or how do people find you, or how does that work? Or is it usually referral based, or you reach out to businesses to?
You froze on me.
Frozen.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Do I reach out to businesses, or is it more so referral? Is that what you were asking?
Yes. Yeah. How do people get in touch with you to use you as their CFO?
Sure. So I've really grown the book simply by networking and building relationships. And so I talk with people all across the states. I'm part of a few different masterminds or networking groups that has given me the opportunity to bring in clients just through natural conversation. And then, of course, we've been around long enough now where we've gotten referrals from current clients or from those relationships that we've built. I don't take the time right now to go out and, do door knocking of sorts, but I've been blessed in the fact that I haven't had to do that. I think if I were sticking around with MKB a little bit longer and maybe shifted the roles to still being in that business development role, but let all the other team members handle the book of business, I think maybe I would expand into that and see how it would work out. But 100% of our clients are through networking or word of mouth.
How'd you get into this? How'd you decide to be a fractional CFO? Most people that start businesses, they saw something that was broken in a business and then decided to fix it. Is that part of your story, or what made you want to do this?
Pretty similar. It actually started with my own financial journey. So about 10-ish years ago, almost 11 years ago now, I had just started at UCF and found myself with $1.50 in my bank account. And that was my come to Jesus moment of I needed to become financially literate. And so I embarked on this journey of personal financial literacy, and I'd studied finance at UCF to really make sure that I built that skill set for myself. Tried a few different corporate type roles when I graduated. It wasn't until I started working for my parents' company, the print shop I was telling you about last episode, where they brought me in as their CFO without the title really. I was doing a lot of the financial work within the organization and overseeing how the company was going to pass hands between my father to my sister and her husband. And so what I realized in that moment was there are a lot of people who struggle with personal financial literacy, but for business owners, it is doubly important because if their business does not do well, then their personal certainly is not going to do well. And so I started seeing the disconnect in just because you're a good business owner doesn't mean that you're great at managing the finances of the business. And so with that, I started talking with some other business owners that I had met. And at this point, I had started Mills Knows Bills as a YouTube channel, started doing some consulting on the side, but my niche was the solopreneur who couldn't identify the difference between their personal and business finances, how to kind of integrate the two of them, all of that. And so it started as a consulting company, really, where I was targeting this demographic. But then about 12 to 18 months in, I started having clients who came back and said, this plan is great, but I have no time or desire to implement it. Can you just implement it for me? And so I started implementing the business financial plans that I was creating for them, tracking metrics, and then it just blossomed into there. And then I started hiring other CFOs with like additional experience than I even had. And so we then worked part-time on a contractual basis with them. So it kind of found me more than I found it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's an interesting journey, and you going from, starting obviously with nothing like a lot of us, and wrapping your head around, okay, I need to figure this out. And
Hmm.
I need to be disciplined about it
Hmm.
and consistent.
Hmm.
And I think that's where probably a lot of people, go off the hinges,
Yeah.
where, they know what to do, but they just can't be consistent with it. Uh,
Yeah.
but what is the scope that you cover? So I'm a blue collar business. I just spoke to a buddy of mine an hour ago who owns a
Mhm.
general contracting business, a plumbing business, and a AC business. And I don't know, maybe he'd be in need of your services. He doesn't have a CFO and is looking to sell his business in the next 5 years. So
Sure.
what's the scope, of work that you
Yeah.
would cover for a business like that?
So the symptom that we solve and how we make our business owners feel is financial peace. They understand that somebody who is educated in this role can handle it, which means the business owner doesn't have to be the CFO anymore. Because if you don't have a CFO, you are one.
Hmm.
And so that overwhelms a lot of business owners, especially with the prospect of wanting to sell their business. And so what we do is come alongside them as a partner and we help them with making decisions on the day to day, week to week, month to month to get them closer to the valuation number that they want within their desired timeline. How we do that is through three separate cadences: weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Every week, we email them a report where we track a variety of KPIs, such as financial projections, cash flow up to 13 weeks in advance, status on their AR and AP, an update on their net worth, and a few other metrics to make sure that we can provide a cover letter on that weekly report that goes over their red flags, 2 to 3 bullet points that the business owner needs to keep an eye on in that week because it's going to hurt their long term. Green flags, things that they should double down on, or an opportunity in their business, an additional revenue vertical that can increase their profit. And then action items are things that they or somebody within the organization should complete within that week in order to move them forward. Every month, we do a reported review. So we review their profit and loss, compare that to industry standards as well as the budget we have established for that business, and then month over month changes in those weekly KPIs. And so this video is typically 15 minutes long. It allows the business owner to get the information that they need quickly. My personal favorite is that they pass that information on to any other professional within their organization who gets like their internal bookkeeper or maybe their PM, somebody who needs to hear this information, but the business owner doesn't want to have to read it. And then quarterly, we have our operational meetings. And so these meetings are done on Zoom. nationwide. And so these conversations are really around goals that the business owner has. You have a goal to increase your revenue by $250,000 this quarter. Does that mean you need to hire somebody? Okay. How much is that person going to cost you? We kind of work backwards. And so we talk about the operational pieces, but then as CFOs, we assign financial metrics to them that we then track in those weekly.
Yeah. And yeah, I like that process that you put in place. And clearly, you've thought a lot about that and worked through that. I can imagine when you originally established that of what's going to be the best for the client and providing them the most value for obviously what they're bringing you on as.
Yeah.
Um, what is the I guess as a fractional CFO,
Mm-hmm.
my concern could potentially be, is there going to be too many companies that you are a fractional CFO for? Do you have a, like, how you scale that, or from a timing per, client thought process of like, when is it too much to where I might not get the same, value as I did before when you had, 50 clients versus 400.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, it's
and you
not just
probably know how to
me.
solve for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just me doing the CFO work. We have a few other CFOs on the team. And so we've identified, depending on the type of business or revenue size, each CFO can handle feasibly 15 to 20 clients. And so once we get closer to that capacity, we start interviewing for the next round of fractional CFOs to join the team. And so we try to make sure that we cap out our CFOs at a point where they can feasibly manage their book, because you are kind of like a financial therapist for
Mhm.
these business owners too. And
Sure.
so it's not just the financial capacity, it's the emotional capacity as well. And so that's how we manage that part. But what we also look at is, when does it make sense for our client to hire a full-time CFO? And that just depends on the business. If they are needing to chat with us more frequently, and I'd say more than once a week, that's an indicator that they might need somebody in-house,
Yeah.
especially if it's because of good things happening, not necessarily bad things happening. If they can also afford somebody full-time, and if it's going to get them the return on the investment of that salary, especially when they go to sell, then it would make sense for them. But at this point, most of our blue collar guys, they don't want to get to the point where they want to bring somebody in full time.
Yeah.
It's more of a, when they get to that point, they're going to want to sell anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Um, I mean, you're just feeling it's such a niche that you created. There's just so many business owners that, started. My brother-in-law runs a business in Charlotte. He has a tent business, right? So they do like Sweet 16s, open houses, stuff like that. Now he has, 3 years later, he has, I think, 80 tents. He's got, well, him and his one partner and a few employees, no CFO. The partner
Mhm.
has, some financial experience enough for them to get here, but they're doing over 1 million. It's a
Mhm.
great thing you have going, a great business that you started, and
Thank you.
yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
I appreciate it.
When you're not doing this, what are you doing for fun?
Okay. So I love to cook. I call myself a amateur chef.
Mhm.
Um, I like to work out, weightlift, and then I love to read. So those are my three things that I do for myself.
Yeah.
For those that know me really well, like, my identity is being a mama. And so I bring my kids everywhere. I try to do as much stuff with them as possible. We probably go to Disney once a week for a couple hours at a time just to get out of the house. But I'm the type of mom where if we go to Disney and we don't get on anything, it's fine. We're there for a walk and fresh air and maybe a ride.
Great. You're lucky how local you are to be able to do that.
Yes. Yeah,
Pretty
it's
convenient.
like 25 minutes from my house, so I'm very blessed that we get to do that often.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much
Mhm.
for having me, and
Yes,
enjoyed
thank
learning
you.
more about your business. And I learned a lot that I didn't know, and I definitely have a handful, at a minimum, of people that could use your services. So I'll definitely
Well,
be, if you want to share, I don't know if you do this, but I'm sure you send out all of your information, but if you just want to share how, I'll share this video too, if you can share how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. So the best thing to do is to actually reach out to the new CEO. They'll
Mhm.
be Jen at millsknowsbills.com. And we'll make sure that those are in the notes below so you don't have to type it out from memory. You can just copy and paste. But thank you, Sean, for being my final podcast episode as MKB
Welcome.
CEO.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.